Are you confused about the different teachings of Stoicism you find on the internet? Would the Stoics advocate for the hypermasculine culture that uses Stoicism to support some approaches to stress and dating and how to treat others? Today I want to talk about how Stoicism can be misused and clear up some of the misconceptions of Stoicism that have been propagated by what some have called Broicism. Hello friends, my name is Eric Cloward and welcome to the Stoic Coffee Break. The Stoic Coffee Break is a weekly podcast where I take aspects of Stoicism and do my best to break them down to their most important points. I share my thoughts on Stoic philosophy as well as modern wisdom and share my experiences, both my successes and my failures, and hope that you can learn something from them, all within the space of a coffee break. This week's episode is called Stoicism versus Broicism. The lamp of wisdom shines brightest when lit by the flame of self-awareness. Musonius Rufus. So, about a month ago, I saw an interesting video on YouTube titled, How Stoicism Became the World's Greatest Scam. And to be honest, I was a little reluctant to watch it. But as I'm always interested in expanding my views and finding areas in my life where my perspective could be wrong, I decided to give it a shot. And rather than being a takedown of Stoicism, it was discussing how many online influencers seem to be appropriating and twisting some of the core tenets of Stoicism. I appreciated the balance that they did in explaining what Stoicism actually teaches and how it's being used in ways that don't align with the true meaning of Stoicism. The one caveat is that I didn't really care for the way that they characterized Ryan Holiday. I very much disagreed with it because I think that Ryan has done some great work in bringing Stoicism and his teaching to a wide audience in a way that is very much in line with what the Stoics actually taught. I've read a good number of his books, and when I compare what he teaches with the ancient texts, I think he really hits the mark. So first off, what is Stoicism? For those of you who are new to Stoicism or to my podcast, I'm going to dive into some of the core teachings of Stoicism and then contrast those with some of the misconceptions being promoted. So first and foremost, Stoicism teaches about the dichotomy of control. Now, what this means is that you need to understand what it is you actually have control over in your life. Epictetus clearly explains this, teaching, some things are in our control and others are not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and in one word, whatever are not our actions. In other words, you have control over the way that you think, the things you pursue and avoid, and really anything where you have direct control, meaning any situation where you have a choice that you can make. Everything else is outside of your control, including your own body, your reputation, even the stuff you own. These are all considered externals or indifferents, meaning that they aren't under our control, and they're not good or bad, but they are just things that help us to become better people. The reason why this was so important to the Stoics is because they wanted people to focus on the most important things that were actually under their control. Namely, understanding that you have control over your own thinking and actions regardless of external circumstances. The next important teaching from the Stoics are the four cardinal virtues, and those are wisdom, courage, justice, meaning how you treat other people, and temperance, meaning discipline. They called these the soul good, meaning that if you practice these four virtues in your life, then you can learn to be happy in any situation. And by developing and strengthening these virtues, your external circumstances have less power over your internal inner peace. Now, the result of developing these virtues is that you become more resilient because you recognize that it's your thinking around things that cause much of your emotional turmoil. You're better able to make judgments because you filter everything through the four virtues. When external circumstances are challenging, Epictetus reminds us, what really frightens and dismays us is not external events themselves, but the way in which we think about them. It is not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance. Simply put, your thoughts and judgments about things are what cause the emotions you have about those things. The last aspect of Stoicism that I want to bring up is that the Stoics taught that we are all part of the same human family. They call this cosmopolitanism, meaning that we're all an aspect of the cosmos, part of that same human family, and therefore we need to treat everyone with kindness and compassion, even when they don't treat us the way that we think they should. So the problems with Broicism. Broicism, as it's been referred to, is a modern and shallow interpretation of Stoicism. It focuses on suppressing emotions to appear tough when dealing with challenges. Feeling fear or anxiety or showing vulnerability is considered a sign of weakness. It discards many of the core aspects of Stoicism, such as treating others well, into a hypermasculine framework. Now, this conflation of emotional suppression with strength is exactly the opposite of what the Stoics taught. They taught that you should learn how to manage your emotions, so that rather than reacting emotionally or impulsively, that you are able to take time to objectively examine a situation and choose a response which is in line with Stoic virtues. Now, I've often seen how Stoic quotes on resilience and internal strength are cherry-picked to justify aggressive behavior or a lone wolf, alpha male type of mindset, ignoring the larger context of community, compassion, and the interconnectedness of humankind that the Stoics included as a core part of their philosophy. Broicism takes the concepts of developing inner strength and humility and twists them to rationalize selfishness and the pursuit of material success and the denigration of others, especially women. Broicism also lacks the self-reflection that is a huge part of Stoicism. The Stoics taught that negative emotions are usually caused by misjudgments and errors in your thinking. So in order to manage your emotions, you have to become aware of your own thinking, and that means you have to practice humility and self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations is all about his struggle with his emotions and how to govern with compassion and wisdom while constantly working towards the greater good over personal gain, as well as how to treat others well in all situations. He writes, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil.'" Think about that. Here's the Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world, reminding himself to be kind to those who are selfish and insolent because they just don't know any better. And rather than using his position to punish them, he worked hard to view things with compassion and objectively, and to teach and instruct others in virtue whenever possible. So why does this matter? The reason why this matters to me is that I know a lot of people are feeling the stresses of modern life. Things feel more chaotic than ever in the world, and many people are looking for ways to handle the challenges in their lives. And as I see people like Andrew Tate and others feed on this anxiety and fear and loneliness, they're spreading a very toxic form of Stoicism that is often completely the opposite of Stoic principles and teachings. For me, Stoicism has been extremely helpful in developing a mindset that is more relaxed, resilient, and I'm much better able to manage my emotions in a healthy way. And it's unfortunate to see something that has been such a positive influence in my life be so misused. These misconceptions and mischaracterizations can actually cause more harm. For example, by suppressing emotions and ignoring fear, anxiety, or sadness, it can actually lead to depression and make those emotions even stronger. Stoic rationality helps you face up to those emotions and handle them in a healthy way by understanding that your thinking is what creates the emotions that you feel about any situation. And this helps you to look at emotions more calmly and objectively, allowing you to manage your emotions rather than being overwhelmed by them. Now, I can understand why this version of Stoicism might be attractive to some. It feels easier because you don't have to put in the hard work that living a truly Stoic life requires. Being mindful, practicing self-awareness and discipline, and even treating those that you don't like with kindness is challenging. They also hold up their material success as proof that their way of thinking is right. But just because somebody has a lot of possessions doesn't mean they're correct, or even that they're truly happy. So what does a true Stoic look like? A true Stoic is a person that is in command of their emotions. They are able to choose their responses to external circumstances and situations rather than simply reacting. They are kind, patient, and they don't get easily offended. They take criticism easily to see if there's any merit in it, and if so, then they are willing to change. They try to understand the viewpoint of the other person so that they can understand why they hold a certain opinion. And this is so that they can address the flaws in the other person's thinking and possibly find errors in their own thinking. This is also known as humility. The Stoics also talked about sticking to your principles in all situations, which gets misused as a justification for aggressive behavior, being tough, or pushing past burnout. But the core principles the Stoics advocated for were, as I mentioned earlier, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom is all about educating yourself and blending it with your lived experience to make better choices in life. Courage means that you do the right thing in all situations. Justice is about treating other people fairly and with kindness, even when others treat you badly. And temperance, it's about moderation of your desires and the discipline to live the other virtues. So let's look at some examples of the prominent Stoics. Cato the Younger. Cato the Younger was born into a noble family and was highly influenced by Stoicism. His Stoicism shaped his political career and his personal conduct. Even as a statesman and a politician, he remained frugal, unyielding, and principled, in stark contrast to the corruption and decadence of many of the Roman elites. He eschewed the benefits of his status, dressing simply, and preferred to travel without an entourage that was typical of one of his position. He was a strong advocate of justice and sought to further the common good over self-enrichment. He championed a fair and free society and stood up to the tyranny of Julius Caesar, preferring suicide rather than to be used as a tool for Caesar's political aspirations. Cato was well respected even by his enemies because of his unwavering integrity. He was so disinterested in personal glory that he once said, "I would rather people ask why I have no statue than why I have one." Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome, and that made him the most powerful person in the world, as well as one of the wealthiest. But rather than using his position to enrich himself or to live an extravagant lifestyle, he viewed his station as one of service, always seeking to further the common good. When Rome was hit with a plague, carried from the soldiers returning from war, he sold many of his own possessions to aid those who were suffering. As emperor, he heard many legal cases and did his best to be fair, reasonable, and compassionate in his rulings. When we read Meditations, it's not about his triumphs and successes, but rather his struggles within himself to overcome his shortcomings and to serve to the best of his ability, even reminding himself, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. Cold or warm, tired or well-rested, despised or honored, dying or busy with other assignments. Now, in conclusion, the reason I made this episode was that I wanted to step up and help clarify what Stoicism actually is, rather than the distorted versions that I've been seeing online. Stoicism is a profound and practical philosophy that helps you to develop self-control and mastery over your emotions, rather than suppressing or ignoring them. It's about being humble, compassionate, and of service to others, not domination of those that are weaker or less fortunate. It's about standing up for and living the principles of wisdom, courage, justice, and developing temperance and discipline in yourself. We should follow the words of Marcus Aurelius. Concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice. And that's the end of this week's Stoic Coffee Break. As always, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and thanks for listening. I also wanted to let you know that my book, Stoicism 101, is now available for pre-order. I would appreciate it if you would pick one up. You can find a link in the show notes or in the comments section or in the description section down below if you're watching the video. I've put a lot of work into this book, and I think you would really enjoy it. Also, if you have any comments or questions about this episode or about Stoicism in general, please go ahead and leave them in the comments if you have that on your podcasting app, or you can leave it in the comments below if you're watching this video on YouTube. Thanks again for listening.